Nintendo in the Switch era is wildly different from the 3DS and Wii U era. Based on their designs, you'd think that these consoles were released from completely different companies. The Switch has proven to be extremely successful, partly because of its no-nonsense theming. It's sleek, it's modern, if you want to play, then bam, you get to play. As much as I loved my 3DS and Wii U, you had to be in the Nintendo sphere to really get it. Trying to win someone over with the Wii U might as well be rocket science. That era was a confusing and bloated mess, but not gonna lie, I kinda miss it, because with all that unnecessary bloat also came with the signature Nintendo charm, which we just don't see much of these days. The 3DS is the perfect example. Bless this system, but it was struggling from the very beginning. It boasted so many features right out the gate, but could it handle it all? Barely, but you can't say that the system came with nothing. Remember that informational 3DS video? I watched that multiple times back in the day. I was all for it. When I learned about StreetPass, I could tell that the system was gonna be special. Not the greatest console in the world, just special. Nowadays, I know a lot of people are praising StreetPass in hindsight, but I feel like we're underestimating just how important this feature is, especially as we enter the future of temporary services. StreetPass is much more important than you think, and here's why. What is one thing that Nintendo will always be known for? Innovation. It can be something subtle like adding shoulder buttons, to something era-defining like true console portability. What makes Nintendo's innovation different from others is that they're known to put their own spin on things, something other than just bigger and better. Finally adding light to the GBA screen, but also making it foldable. The ability to play Game Boy games on the TV, but add fun borders. Introducing motion controls, but designing the controller like a TV remote. It's those little design quirks that make you go, oh, that's very Nintendo. I'm not saying that their creativity always hits, but when it does, it easily becomes a fan favorite. And Nintendo executed this philosophy to the fullest with StreetPass. They essentially took something unremarkable like data exchange and gamified it. They could have easily advertised it as sharing gameplay stats, but they went all out and made it a delightful surprise. And since this feature was built into every single 3DS model, it had the potential to grow with time. Not only did Mii Plaza utilize it from day one, but even 3DS games were able to take advantage of this feature in their own way, meaning that each new release was a chance to further add value to StreetPass. Just to name a few, New Leaf lets you view other players' homes, Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire lets you visit other secret bases, and Smash 3DS lets you play Street Smash, which was much more exciting than I expected. All of these additions contribute to this interconnected web of StreetPass. It makes this feature so much more than it was back in 2011. This could very well be biased because I'm a huge Nintendo fan, but I felt that the 3DS was very community-centric. The 3DS and Wii U may have had a rough financial period, but the people who did buy into these systems were able to connect like never before. The foundation of the Nintendo Wi-Fi connection had finally evolved. Players were getting more and more tech-savvy, but the industry was not yet at the point where everything is streamlined and always online. It was a very interesting transitional period. Rest in peace, Miiverse. But I believe that StreetPass could have only happened in the sweet spot of communication. Nintendo was getting their bearings with Wi-Fi without completely abandoning local connectivity. These days, with the Switch, it's so much easier to just play with your friends online at any given moment, but for things like StreetPass, it would not function unless you engage with the local community, either from close friends or random strangers. Whoever thought of Puzzle Swap is just a pure genius. It's quite literally one giant puzzle to solve. You need the people around you to make substantial progress. Plus, you get to see the fruits of your socializing labor when you complete a puzzle. Find Me is more of a game, where it's this passive RPG, but once again, you rely on your community to be that one boss you've been stuck on. It kind of feels like a precursor to Miitopia, adding personal touches to feel like it's your story. Both subgames reinforce this idea that we are making StreetPass substantial, just by being Nintendo fans. Even just meeting Miis at the gate is always a treat. You get a glimpse of any type of player you come across, regardless of skill level. I've been fortunate enough to visit Nintendo New York a handful of times, even back when it was called the Nintendo World Store, and when I finally had a 3DS, I was so excited to bring it to the store. A place literally made to attract Nintendo fans. Especially when the 3DS was in its heyday, this store was basically a StreetPass goldmine. I remember my gate reached double digits. That's not an everyday occurrence. Even though the 3DS has been long discontinued, there are still concentrated efforts to keep StreetPass alive, like meetups and conventions. And you best believe the next convention I'm going to, I'm bringing my 3DS just to make that green light appear one more time. This feature is built for the community, and will continue that way as long as there is one to sustain it. I'm a big advocate for preservation. It's important to have access to previous work, both for historical purposes and just pure nostalgia. It's not a coincidence that you're starting to see videos like, how many Street Passes can I get this year? As long as there are 3DSs around, there is always someone to Street Pass with. Nintendo notoriously struggles to preserve their own properties, ranging from the Virtual Console to Nintendo Power magazines. There's a reason that old Nintendo products are so valuable now, but at least they tangibly exist in the world, which can be preserved by the right people. The problem rears its ugly head when it comes to the digital side. This can be a wide range of things, like distribution events, limited time promotions, or even online services. Once they're gone, they're gone. And with the discourse surrounding the Wii U and 3DS eShop closure, we can see how quickly all that content can be lost to time. It's troubling to know that companies have every right to pull the plug on any digital service. I know it's unrealistic to maintain these things forever, but it stings nonetheless. Those little features and events all help to add character to that period of time. Little memories that you wouldn't have appreciated if you weren't there at the time. Like, I wish I knew what Pokemania felt like, but I'll never truly know cause I wasn't there. Everyone had a Wii, but you had to be there to experience everything it had to offer. Even something like the former Nintendo Wi-Fi connection can make all the difference on how you look at the Wii. If it wasn't for the homebrew community, this system would have been forever neutered. But the amazing part of Street Pass is that it's built to last forever. Aside from bonus DLC, the base content is more than enough. You just need the system and a Mii. Especially these days, when the gaming industry is so reliant on subscriptions and live services, it's refreshing to fall back on something that just works right out of the box. Even in its dying breath, the 3DS will still have Street Pass to call its own. And as long as the community continues to keep this feature alive, this part of the 3DS's legacy will never be forgotten, which is something that time cannot take away. Nintendo generally does good things, but one of them does not include preservation. The most they'll do is acknowledge the past and then swiftly move on to future projects, which makes sense from a business standpoint. You want to keep the consumer's focus on the next new thing, but abandoning the past in this way also hurts the legacy of this company. It's no wonder that Nintendo fans have been screaming for years about remasters and ports. It's because this company isn't taking the proper steps to preserve their catalog, not just in games, but in general. I don't expect them to maintain every single service they offered in the past, but there is a double-edged sword to live services. It's not surprising that there are so many articles and videos on what to grab before the eShop closes. Once they cease to exist, that loss impacts everyone. There is no perfect solution to this dilemma, but it goes to show that preservation is incredibly important, even for something as small as Street Pass, and it's up to the fans to document and preserve as much of Nintendo's legacy as they can, because we know that the company will not do it justice. That's why I will always appreciate Street Pass for introducing something so novel, yet built to last. So whether it's 2011 or years down the line, we all get the same reaction when we see that green light. It's a reminder that community means everything, so please treasure it.